Hi everyone, this is Anil. Welcome to CIS IRM session 4. In previous sessions, we have covered until user hierarchy functionality. Next, we talk about confidentiality. Now, in order to enable this, there is a system property called sn underscore grc dot enable record confidentiality. Once it enabled, it cannot be turned off. And there's a module called grc confidential records. So yeah, under this you have all risk events, engagements, all audit tasks, observations, issues, remediation tasks, evidence requests, tasks, policy exceptions, and the role that is required is sn underscore grc dot confidential user, and they can see all the modules, right? So confidentiality tab on forms, so it includes allowed users and allowed groups. Write access required to mark record confidential. Notifications are sent. Next is auto population of allowed users. Users that set the confidentiality flag is added to allowed users group. So whoever sets it, they will be added to the allowed users group. Additional users are automatically added depending on the table. To enable confidentiality, system administrator should navigate to policy compliance, administration, GRC properties, and they should be in this application scope and this check the checkbox called enable system level confidentiality. So let's look at that. So the navigation that is mentioned here is policy compliance, administration, GRC properties. So go here, policy compliance, and then under this, you have to look for administration. Yeah, policy. Yeah, here under administration, we have to look for GRC properties. Enable record level confidentiality. This is a system property we have to enable. SN underscore grc dot enable record confidentiality is a property name. So next is entity scoping. Entity type is grouping of entities and each type has its own owner. Departments and vendors, applications and business services, databases and servers are some of the examples of entity types. Then you have use entity filters to create entity types. When entity type is applied to control objective, controls are created. Control owner will be same as entity owner. When entity type is applied to risk statement, risks are created. Risk owner will be same as entity owner. That's about entity type. So let's look at that. So we'll go to our ServiceNow, look for entity types. Policy compliance, scoping, entity types. You'll have it the same navigation for risk also. So let's look at department as an example. So we go to departments. You have name, then there is a compliance score that gets rolled up. Active, generate target, description, pillar, functional domain. And then you have various related lists. So here mainly we're talking about entity filters. So we'll talk about that. So when it comes to entity filter type, there are a couple of options available. Let's look at that. So if you show XML on this one, we can see the table name for this. The entity filter table name is sn underscore grc underscore enrichment underscore query. And if you see here, entity filter type is build your own conditions or select from predefined queries. So if you have any CMDB query that is configured, then that can also be leveraged here as filter. Next we have, again, let's stick to this one. So you give a table name here. Then you give a filter condition. Like let's say the business unit is a specific business unit, for example, and then that will be your filter condition. And there's a tab called assignment. Here you can define who is the default owner and then which field has to be used from the source table to populate the owner of the entity. And again, that depends on this here. And auto update entity owner. So if this is checked, then whenever the department head in this case on the department is updated, then the entity also gets updated with the owner field, right? I mean, it is not instantaneous update. It is a scheduled job that runs once a day. And empty owner use default. We have two options. One is do not create entity or use default. So because we have given a default owner, when at the time of entity creation, if it cannot find owner on the source record, then it will assign a default owner and it will create an entity. But if you don't want entity to be created with empty owner, then you can also say do not create entity. So that's about two tabs. One is assignment, one is filter condition. And then the two options available here, one is build your own conditions or predefined CMDB queries. Right? So that is that. Coming back to the entity type. And then here you will see various tabs as I mentioned. One is entities, which means all the entities which are created for this entity type, and then entity filters we have seen. And then depending on what modules you have installed, like risk management, risk framework, policies, control objectives, policy exceptions, all those will be available uh, for this entity type, right? So going back to the diagram, this one here, so you can see that risk statement control objective has a reference to entity type. So that what we can see here in action, right? We have risk framework, risk statement, control objectives, and policies, policy exceptions. All of them have a reference to entity type. Let's move on. Next, we talk about like the control creation and the risk creation. So let's look at one example for that. So let's open one entity and see if it has any risks and controls. So as you can see here, again, there are different tabs available, but from entity, you can see against which entity type it is created. It is one to many, which means you can have different entity types which can generate an entity. And then you have upstream and downstream entities. Again, this comes from your class hierarchy. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then you have downstream risks, downstream controls. Now here you will see all the controls of this entity and its downstream entities. So for example, if there are any downstream entities and if they have controls, then they will also appear here. The same applies to downstream risks and so on. And similarly, you have other tabs also. So we'll cover them as we progress in this course. You also have an option to filter them, like show directly related entities and show directly related controls and all controls. So as I mentioned, if you want to see what are the in controls just for that entity, you can see that by with the help of this action. And similarly, if you want to see all the controls which are the directly related controls plus its child controls, then you can see that as well. That's about entity. And on entity record, we can see that the applies to record, the field name is applies underscore to, will take you to the actual department record from which this is generated. And then there is a checkbox called refers to existing record, which is checked, which means this is referring to this record, and the name will come from here. Owner will be the department head, and the active flag is checked. Now this will be checked based on the filter conditions of the entity type. If the if this entity meets those filter conditions, then this active flag is checked. If, for example, the filter conditions are not met for this entity anymore, then this becomes inactive. The class will be the department. Then you have uh, the department of the record. And then you have auto update owner. The purpose of this is if you want to update this owner based on the source record changes, then that is that. And then you have other tabs like activity journal, settings, aggregate risk scores, and risk appetite. Yeah, that's about entity record. Let's move on. Next, we talk about entity classes. Now, the purpose of this is how to get risk and compliance posture for all my business applications across all divisions in the business. So that is the question we're trying to answer. So to do that, we will have to set up entity classes. So we'll cover that in the next session. Thanks.